Hey Gators and sports fans, get all your Gator talk, news, analysis, and opinions on the Pod Up with Matthews in the Morning podcast. Find us on your favorite podcast platform or watch us on Facebook Live between 8 a.m. and 9 a.m. every weekday. Pod Up, because we are Gator fans. So say it's great to be a Florida Gator.
Morning and welcome to a Wednesday edition, a National Signing Day edition of Pod Up with Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. We're going to have Jason Higdon from firstand10florida.com in the back portion of today's show talking about National Signing Day, also the transfer portal, how well Florida's done with that, get his thoughts on if the Gators sign anyone today or not. But we're going to kick the show off with Coach Bobby Bowden, former head coach of the Florida State Seminoles, one of the greatest college football coaches of all time, won 2 national titles. We're going to kick it off with a couple of bits and pieces of some interviews and some clips from his great career. And then we're going to get Coach Bowden on the Titan MR hotline right here on Pod Up with Matthews in the Morning.
Championship there first. The young man in at quarterback right now, number 12, Doug Johnson. He is a freshman from Gainesville, Florida. He's on a baseball scholarship right now. But a lot of people think this may be the quarterback right here next year.
He's here again.
And that's going to do it. The ball game is over. The Florida Gators have staked their claim for the national championship of the 1996 season. Couple of weeks.
Okay, Coach, what was the biggest difference with your team's performance between this game and the last one?
They just beat us in every part of the game. I thought the kicking, the punch that rolled dead on our one, I think they scored off of both of them, I'm not sure. But this kept us in the hole and we couldn't capitalize. They just beat the heck out of us in every part of football.
Congratulations on a great season. Let's go to Lynn Swann.
Okay, Steve, congratulations. I think what's going to be a national championship for you, we've got to let you say how you feel at this moment.
Swanee, God has smiled on the Gators, no question about it. Texas did what they had to do, and then Ohio State did it. Of course, we hadn't won it yet. We got to wait on the vote tomorrow. Hopefully it'll work out, but, you know, God smiled on us, and Danny Warford's the best. He's the best player to ever play college quarterback, I'll tell you that.
You got help. You got help from the right places, but the game plan had to come together. A much more physical ball game by your team with a great game plan.
Well, we had to get in the shotgun, and Danny's good in there and get the ball off, and then we was able to run a little bit later, but Danny did it all, and the whole team played super. Proud of everybody.
We'll talk to Danny. Danny, it was a sensational ball game. Your thoughts, your last game as a Gator?
Just have to give all glory and praise to Jesus Christ, my Lord and Savior. It's been a wonderful career, so many great friends, so many great moments. It's definitely one of the best. Defense, offense, special teams, punt team, everybody played their best tonight, and we're just real excited.
You played the whole game in that shotgun. You look like you've been in it all your life.
Hey, you got to do what you got to do, and we had to do that to win. So just thankful, very blessed, and I just share all the credit with the teammates.
I think we wish you the best.
Thanks
You've been
a lot.
great asset to college football, a great inspiration for young people.
All right, I'm out of here. I'm done.
All right, Swanee, thanks very much. We hope you enjoyed it, the Florida Gators.
Well, I've got 2 thoughts about the 85 season. One, very disappointed that we lost 3 real big games. The Auburn game, the Miami game, and the Florida game. Very disappointing. And then at the same time, looking at it from an overall standpoint, I can see how far the program has come. That here we are, an 8-3 football team, and catching a lot of criticism about not having a good year. That is a good sign, because when I first came here, 8-3 would have satisfied everybody.
Now, offensively, men, that's what we need to do offensively. run left, run right, reverse left, reverse right, and throw the ball, because that fatigues the opponent. So if we can make those things go at all, man, we'll get them out of gas. You know, they'll have a hard time rushing that passer. So offense, that's what we're thinking about now. Quarterbacks, now don't forget, Danny, first half I don't mind using my timeouts. So if I'm late with a call, when we're down inside that 20, if there's any confusion at all, remember last week on the 34, there's a little confusion on the way we sent it in. But you can use a timeout down there. I'd rather have the touchdown than saving the timeout. Men, now listen to me. Listen to what I say, that's very important. Don't worry about a mistake. You young guys, you worry about mistakes. Don't worry about a mistake. If you're going to make it, how are you going to make it? Full speed. He starts wide for this guy. The guy's so wide, it's perfect. He can't get him. That's good. He starts for him. Now he's here. This guy here, might just come doing that now. And this thing here is now open. I mean, it might be that he can't hit him right there. I mean, a guy might come there. And then I hope if that's true, that this guy, now the other day we ran that thing, and this guy stopped. Now he'll just keep running. It's a touchdown now, you know. It's a touchdown. So they really need to go at it tomorrow. That we want to work the rhythm that we wanted. But if you're upstairs, you know, and we've run the option or something, and you've seen this guy sitting here, and he keeps kind of cheating there like that, well, then we'll get this thing right by him. It'll be a dang touchdown. Now, a quarterback wants to use an ideal rhythm he uses. And then when he starts down that line, if that safety is breaking for that tight end, man, he'll just keep coming about 2 more steps. I can just go right up over the top. It's a touchdown. Right. You know, so you just alert them and the tight end of what could possibly happen. In other words, tight end, you run your regular thing, and if you don't get the ball immediately, keep flying. It's probably a touchdown, you know. Then a quarterback, if he comes there and he can't quite, if it's not quite in there, gosh, you just wait a little bit longer, you can go right over the top up there, and we get a touchdown there. And so, Jack, if you spot that safety up there trying to cheat up in there and come there and hit that lane, you know, on an option, or we ran a 32 and he came flying up, or he was up there, you think he's ready to do it, you just alert me what down is. They might do it on 1st and 10, not do it on another down, see? Well, the thing that excites me about Florida State University is that it is a relatively new school in the field of intercollegiate football and basketball. There's no doubt about it. When I was a kid, there wasn't a Florida State University football team, you know. There wasn't a Florida State basketball team. And yet, as I was growing up in college, I was able to compete against Florida State and saw that new young school down there growing. I was up in Alabama, but Florida State was in Tallahassee, and I was watching them grow. And I felt like you could see big time written on Florida State. And so being part of a university that, again, all of it's, that didn't have tradition yet, but I think right now we're in the middle of it. Again, I think the fact that some people are complaining about an 8-3 season tells you something about some tradition that's being built. And but knowing also that 30 or 40 years from now, I will have been on the ground floor of Florida State building some great tradition. That's exciting to me. That's very exciting to me. And I hope I'm 56 years of age, and I'm getting up to the age where you start, you know, people start saying, how many interviews can you think I've had lately where they said, how much longer can you go? You know, well, boy, I hope I can go longer where I can contribute to Florida State. And yet I realize if we start going backwards with me, then we'll have to get somebody else younger to take it over. But it's exciting to me, trying to build a tradition here.
Now, the best way to beat people is to take the football and knock it down their throats and don't let them have the football. But you can't do that every Saturday. So we're trying to have the same ability to throw as we are the run, where last year we got heavily run and could not throw as well.
All right, Al, with me, of course, Bobby Bowden. Coach, you really decided to show us what kind of an arm your quarterback has, 215 yards in the first half.
Well, that's good. I really, he's a freshman, and I really wanted to see what he had. So we're going to come out and fire the football no matter what and see what he can do.
Yet in many cases, the finality of the drives that you had up and down the field wasn't there. Are you satisfied with the 13-0 score?
No, but the penalties, we look like a team that's been off for about a month. We're getting penalty, and stopping ourselves a lot. I think if we can stop the penalty business, I believe we could do all right.
You were scared with the youth of this team. That's what you said to me yesterday, and I haven't seen very many freshman mistakes out there.
Well, that's the key to it. It would really help us next year if these kids could get a win tonight. Got a tough 30 minutes to go, but it would really help us, and I'm really proud of the way they're playing so far.
All right, Coach, thank you very much.
Thank you, buddy. Appreciate it.
And I know you remaining here with
nice,
a quick word from Coach Bobby Bowden.
Thank you. Just want to thank the Gator Bowl committee for inviting us and for the great hospitality that was shown us here in Jacksonville, Florida by everybody. I thought it was a great football game, and we were honored to play against a fine Oklahoma State team. Thank you.
Bobby Bowden, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming.
You know, when I first started coaching, and in the first years of college football, it was understood you had to run the ball to win a national championship. Yeah, if you can't run the ball, you're not going to win a national championship. Steve came along in the 90s and proved that you can win a national championship featuring the passing game. He showed the nation, hey, you can win it with your running game, but you can also win it with your passing game. And he did this. In fact, he beat us in the Sugar Bowl to win the national championship. And nobody could throw the ball like Steve Spurrier. And he had good receivers. I think one year he had two receivers, maybe might have been first round. He might have had more than that. But let me say this. I'm glad I'm talking to him today and not playing. And, you know, in the state of Florida, Steve is proud, and I am too. Florida State, and Miami, I think one time we're 1, 2, 3 in the nation. I think. You know what? If it wasn't, we were close, all of us. You know, football, and I mean, if you played in the state of Florida, if you could beat Florida and Miami, you'll win the national championship that year. You know what? Because they were two of the better teams in the nation.
Well, we're now joined by the legend, Coach Bobby Bowden from Florida State. Good morning, Coach. How are you?
Fine, Shane. How you doing?
Doing well. I appreciate you coming on. I want to go back to your younger days. Growing up in Birmingham, you were a quarterback, and you went and played at the University of Alabama. That was a lifelong dream, right?
Yeah, really was, you know, being raised in Birmingham. And back in those days, Auburn and Alabama didn't play each other. So Alabama got all the attention, you know. And yes, that was my goal.
And you ended up, you played there, but you also went and played at Howard College, which is now called Sanford College. You played quarterback there as well. And then once you were done, you got into coaching. Did you always want to growing up, did you always want to be a football coach?
You know, I never thought about it. It's funny. It just worked out that way. In other words, when I played my last football game at Sanford University, the athletic director came to me and said, Bobby, if you go get your master's degree, we'll hire you next year as assistant coach. And so I said, oh, boy, here's a job, you know, not thinking about coaching. But anyway, I got my master's, and they hired me as assistant football coach.
And then I read somewhere where you went off and you were the athletic director, you were the football coach, baseball coach, and the basketball coach at South Georgia College, I believe.
Yeah,
and you had a losing record in basketball, so you fired yourself, right?
I had to. I tell you what, I didn't want to coach basketball because I really wasn't qualified. But to get the job, I had to take it. So I took it, but I did a poor job. And really didn't care because I was only interested in football. So I hired Vince Gibson. I don't know if you remember Vince Gibson or not. He was later on the head coach at Kansas State and at Tulane. And of course, he died about 5 years ago. But anyway, so yeah, that changed things around at South Georgia College. I ended up as head football and head baseball coach. I really enjoyed baseball.
Well, you ended up going to Florida State as an assistant, and I believe on that staff, some pretty good football coaches, a guy named Bill Parcells, Joe Gibbs, Don James. When you all guys were coaching together, did you have any type of feeling that you guys would become legendary coaches?
Well, when I was coaching there, Parcells was not there. I was Don James was there, Vince Gibson was there, John Cota was there. All of them ended up as head coaches somewhere, but that was before Parcells.
Gotcha. And you're the head coach at West Virginia, and then you go back as the head coach at Florida State, and you took over a program that hadn't won a whole lot. What did you have to do to turn that Florida State football program around to the powerhouse that you made it?
When I came to Florida State from West Virginia, I did not come down there with the idea of staying. I'd been up in West Virginia for 10 years and wanted to get back closer to home, where Ann and I could be around our mothers. Our daddies had died, but at least we could be around our mothers. And so we come down to Florida State as head coach, and not with the intentions of staying, but hoping I could get back to Alabama. But things worked out so good at Florida State, I made the decision to just stay here and finish my career at Florida State.
Yeah, Coach, I mean, in the heyday, we're in the 90s. Obviously, here in the state of Florida, you had Miami, Florida, and Florida State all battling. First, before I get to that, I remember when I took my recruiting visit to Florida State, it's crazy that you ended up signing 3 players from my small little high school in Mississippi that I know 2 of them are Hall of Famers at FSU, maybe 3, with Terrell Buckley, Kes McCorvey, and Mario Edwards, all became great players for Florida State. It's amazing that the little small school in Mississippi gave you some pretty good football players.
Yeah, if we could have got you, we would have had them all. I remember you well. I remember meeting your parents, But we were very happy with being able to recruit down there.
Yeah, I tell everybody, Coach, Charlie and I came out the same year. And when I speak at some of these different quarterback clubs and stuff, and they're Florida State fans there, I tell them, they were only going to sign 1 quarterback, I believe, that year. And if I would have signed, you Florida State folks wouldn't know who Charlie Ward is. Obviously, I was joking about that.
Yeah. Well, we had I think Winky was there, but he decided to go into pro baseball and stayed gone about 4 years and then came back. And it took us to 3 national championship games, which we only won 1 of those 3. But anyway, we had Casey Weldon was here already. Charlie was a freshman. We kind of let Charlie play basketball till his day came. And of course, when his day came, we had a couple of great years.
Speaking of that, when you look back at all the great players that you coached at Florida State, from Dion to Derek Brooks, I mean, we can go on and on. Peter Warwick. Would you say Charlie was the most gifted player you ever had, or is it Dion?
Dion was probably the best athlete we had here at Florida State. And that'll probably last a long time because he was such a good athlete. I think he was picked when they picked the 100-year team. I think he made it at corner, and so we were able to recruit some good players, and that is the name of the game. If you don't get good players, you're not going to win.
Yeah. Coach, I want to look back to, I can't remember what year it was, but when Florida had the big lead against the Seminoles, y'all rallied, tied it up where you scored. I'm curious, as a head coach, what made you decide to kick the extra point for the tie instead of go for the win?
Well, that's a good question. And the reason was this. I mean, I really thought about both. In fact, if you remember, I let my offense stay in there. I was going to go ahead and go for 2. Then I got to thinking, golly, we made a comeback like this. I can't afford to risk it by losing the game if we did. So I decided we best go ahead and get the kick. I think we still had over half a minute left in the game and thought maybe we might get the ball back, and we did. They came out through an interception right off the bat. I think we ended up on about their 40-yard line when the game was over.
Yeah, that was an unbelievable game. There's no question about it. When you look back at all those close misses against Miami, the wide rights or whatever, if you had the format of the 4-team playoff they have nowadays in college football, probably Florida State, even though you would lose a couple of those games to Miami year in and year out, you guys would have probably been in the 4-team playoff every year because you were ranked in the top 5 for like 12 or 13 straight years.
Yeah, we finished every year good. I remember one year there we lost our first game of the year and won the rest of them. The next year we lost our first 2 games of the year and won the rest of them. And it would only taken a break at 1 or 2, and we'd have had an opportunity to play for a national championship. I think we played for 5.
Yeah, you played for 5, won 2 of them. And you actually are the all-time winningest coach. But I think it was like 12 or 13 victories had to be vacated, and so Joe Paterno is. How do you feel about that, Coach?
Well, I think I was probably the scapegoat because what happened I had nothing to do with, and I think our administration. I think they were either going to take a bowl away where we couldn't play in a bowl, or that, and so the administration just decided they got to have that bowl, they got to have that money, which is probably correct, But I didn't feel like I deserved those 12 losses, but I did get them. But that's the thing people don't realize that I had 22 wins at South Georgia College, which didn't count. And if I'd have got those 22 wins plus the 12 that were taken away, I'd have had 411 wins, which would have been more than Joe.
When you look back at your career, Coach, I've watched college football my whole life, but the one play that stands out to my mind when I think of Florida State football, and I don't remember what year it was, but it was Leroy Butler, and I want to say y'all were at Clemson, and you called the fumble Rooski. Is that one of the most exactly? Is that one of the most famous plays in Florida State football history? Probably
is. Yeah, we were playing Clemson, who was ranked about number 3. They were ranked up there pretty high, and we went for the fake punt, and Butler took it down to the 3-yard line, and we kicked a field goal. The funny thing about that field goal, we were on the left hash mark, 3-yard line. Now, that's the most difficult angle there is. That goal comes mighty narrow when you start kicking from a hash mark up close. And right. And our kicker had already missed 2 that day. But he hit that one, boy. That was a big one.
Yeah, that's the one play that stands out in my mind with Florida State. Coach, you had three sons, all were coaches, followed in your footsteps, Jeff Bowden, Terry Bowden, and Tommy Bowden. Talk a little bit how strange it was when you were the head coach at Florida State and your son Tommy was the head coach at Clemson. How I guess you got used to it, but the first time the father-son went at it, how strange was that?
It was strange and it was fun. It made it difficult for my wife. She got a son and a son-in-law at Clemson. She got a husband and one of her other sons coaching at Florida State. And so it was tough on her. And she went through it about 5 or 6 years. I think we might have played them 9 times. And the first 5 games, I think we might have won 4 out of 5. But the last 4, they won 3 out of 4. So it was a good series.
It really was. And now Terry is now been named the head coach at Louisiana Monroe. Are you excited for him to get back into the game?
Yeah, I am, because that's what he wanted. Terry's 64 years old now. I mean, how many times do you hear of a 64-year-old getting a job? But he got a good one. Monroe's a very good school, big school, and I think got about 19,000 students. And he has a great opportunity there, but it's going to be tough because that's a pretty dadgum tough league.
Yeah, it is. So Coach, when you look back at, as I was mentioning, Florida State, Miami in the 90s, it was dog eat dog between those 3 schools. How hard was it? How hard was it on the recruiting trail back in those days?
It was tough, but the thing about it is the state of Florida is so big. I think we might be the second or third largest state now. Might even moved up some since all those people are leaving New York and California. But there are a lot of players in this state. We were able to get our share. We didn't get them all. Florida was getting their share too. Miami was getting their share. But there was a time you might remember where Florida State and Miami were 1 and 2 in the nation. There was also a time where Florida and Florida State were number 1 and 2 in the nation. But that's how good football was in the state of Florida.
Yeah. You and Coach Spurrier are both ambassadors for the Florida Rising Stars Project. Tell us what that means to you to be a part of that.
It's very important. It's very important for our young people because our young people need guidance. They need direction. So many of them come from broken homes, and so many of them don't have a father. And so anything that can kind of help them guide their life is worth every minute of it.
When you look, when you and Coach Spurrier were kind of going at it back in the 90s, two tremendous football coaches. I know, you can't be best friends off the field, what have you, but y'all have a great amount of respect for one another, right?
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. When you're playing each other, Florida versus Florida State, people just assume the coaches don't like each other. That wasn't true. I respected him, and I'm sure he respected me, But we had some great games together. And, of course, you came along during that time and helped get Florida off the floor.
Yeah. Okay, we talked about Deion Sanders a few minutes ago, Coach. He's kind of following your footsteps now. He's now the head football coach at Jackson State University. How do you think Deion's going to be as a head coach?
I don't put anything by him. He's a guy that he says he's going to do something, he does it. He says he can do something, he does something. And so I think he'll do well. I'll be surprised, but I think he'll do well in that profession.
Coach Spurrier's opening up a restaurant here in a couple months here in Gainesville. Coach Bowden going to have a restaurant in Tallahassee?
Well, I had one time, and I couldn't hang on to it. But it's a lot of work, boy, a lot involved with it. And gosh, especially with the way it is today.
Yeah, there's no question. Coach, what's the favorite game you coached in? You got one that you can tell us about?
I think probably the biggest game was in '88 when Miami beat us 26-25. We went for 2 with the last seconds of the game and missed it, and they beat us by 1 point. They won the national championship. We came out second. That might have been the biggest one we played in.
Yeah. Last thing for you, Coach. Willie Taggart took over once Jimbo left. They've struggled. Now they've hired Mike Norvell. Struggled this year, especially with COVID and everything. What advice would you give, or have you given any advice to Mike Norvell to try to get the FSU program back where it was, like it was under you?
Well, I haven't tried to give him any advice because he knows what he's doing. He's been very successful at the University of Memphis, and everything he's done so far, I think, has made the program stronger. And I think he will eventually get them back on track. And how soon? Well, that remains to be seen. But I do think he's the right man for the job.
Well, Coach, we appreciate you taking the time to join us today. Stay healthy, and we really do appreciate you joining us.
Shane, thank you very much for calling.
Yes, sir. Thank you. That's Coach Bobby Bowden joining us on the.
See you, buddy.
Take care.
Hey, Gators, this is Coach Steve Spurrier. Hot Up with Matthews in the Morning. We'll be right back after this commercial break.
We want to take this moment to thank all our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills. Our Gridiron sponsors are Crime Prevention Security Systems, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility. Meldon Law, where you matter most. Peachland Dental, Gator Nation's first choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte. Comfort Temp, comfort is our business, peace of mind is our promise. G-Tech Sport, keep your athletes in the game with G-Tech Sport. Celebration Point Town Center, Center State Bank, Chris Doring Mortgage. Some of our touchdown sponsors are Campus USA Credit Union, Adams Rib Company, Darlene Weeby Realtor Caldwell Banker MM Parrish, Gator Dominoes, Celebrate Primary Care, Gator Bait Media, Davis Gainesville Chevrolet, Miapa Latin Cafe, Rap Spot, Okito America, Gators Dockside, Style Cuts, Ironwood Golf Course, TV Financial, Meadowbrook Golf Course, Dar Shakow Insurance. If you are interested in promoting your business on the show, visit potupwithshane.com and click the advertise button. Again, thank you to all our great sponsors that support the show. If you like what we are doing here, make sure you follow us and support the businesses that support us.
Welcome back to the Crime Prevention Security System Studios, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Celebration points where the Gators go to celebrate with premium brands like Bass Pro Shop, Nike, Sensei, Dave & Buster's, opening soon Prime and Pearl, and coming spring of 2021, the HBC's new restaurant, Spurrier's Gridiron Grill and Visor's Rooftop Bar. We will see you at Celebration Point where the Gators go to celebrate. Hope you enjoyed the interview with Coach Bobby Bowden. We're now going to switch gears. It's National Signing Day. Not like it used to be, but we're going to talk to one of our recruiting experts, Jason Higdon from firstandtenflorida.com. Good morning, Jason. How are you, buddy?
I'm doing great, Shane. How are you doing?
Can't complain, my man. It's strange because first of all, before we get into signing, let's talk about the portal. What Florida has done with the transfer portal. They had a couple of big dudes that can play right away from Penn State and Auburn. I want your thoughts because I thought our defensive line has been a weakness. And then Eric Gilbert is a special talent. Give me your thoughts on those guys.
Yeah, he is. I mean, Florida signed 22 high school players. They've added 4 transfers. And, even though he was the first one, we can't forget about DeMarcus Bowman. I think, he'll have probably the biggest impact of the 4. However, as you mentioned, the defensive line, was a struggle at times last year. Not enough bodies, not enough quality bodies. They got a guy from Penn State, Antonio Shelton, who is, 6'3", 330, strong as an ox. I saw a video of the guy putting up like 450 pounds like 10 times like it was nothing. So that kid will come in, start, he'll provide an extreme amount of depth. The skill level goes up with a guy like Shelton. Daquan Newkirk from Auburn is another defensive lineman. So just adding those 2 guys really gives Florida, a lot more options than what we thought we would have going into 2021. And, so 2 guys on the D-line and then 2 skill guys with Bowman. And as you mentioned, Gilbert has all the potential in the world. And, things didn't really go well his first year at LSU. He's back home now in Georgia. And, he'll show up in May and we'll see what he can do. But he has an incredible amount of talent. And a lot of people thought Georgia, maybe even some people thought he might end up at Alabama. But that was a big get for Coach Brewster and Hova down there in the recruiting office. Those guys worked extremely hard to try to get that done. And, give them credit, they got it done. And, the portal has really changed the game, especially for Florida. And Dan has done a great job getting guys in like Grimes and Jefferson and Grenard. And, now these 4 guys coming in. And Florida's team last year, I thought, was really short, probably, 3 guys on each side of the ball. And now they've just added 2 guys on each side of the ball. Of course, you lose Pitts and Trask. Those are huge losses. And different doesn't always necessarily mean bad. A lot of people think that, the offense is going to be bad next year. Well, not necessarily. It's going to be different for sure. But that doesn't necessarily mean bad. So I think we just kind of got to wait and see. And, we'll see what it looks like come September.
When you look at the offensive side of the football now, the backfield is loaded with depth. You still got Lingard, who was a 5-star who transferred from Miami, was banged up a little bit, didn't really get any carries. You still got Pierce, Davis, and Naquan Wright. And as you mentioned, now you add Bowman, who is supposed to be all that. How are you going to keep everybody happy?
Well, the simple and short answer is you can't. Someone's going to be unhappy. And, we saw the amount of carries that Pierce got and the amount of touches that Davis got and the amount of touches that, Wright got. Obviously, Bowman's not coming here to sit the bench and be behind 3 or 4 guys. So I would suspect that once we get into camp in 2-a-days, Bowen will be running a lot with the first string, and they'll see what he can do, very early in camp to see what kind of player he's going to be. So, maybe they can do some things where they move some guys out. Maybe a Malik Davis gets some run some plays from the slot. I'm not really sure. I know that Dan is not big on thinking or believing that they have to have a 5'9" guy like Tony or, someone of that stature that has to play the slot. We could see Trent at the slot. We could see Henderson at the slot. Those guys can move around and do a lot of different things. So I think it will be interesting to see how the wide receiver room shakes out with what they like to do with that slot position player and who actually is going to kind of fill that role. Now, with 22 high school kids plus 4 transfers, you're sitting at 26. And I know everybody thinks they're done. They don't have room for anyone else. They've got 2 more spots. And I suspect both of these spots are going to be filled by the time May rolls around. Now, does that mean everybody's going to make it in the way they're supposed to? Who knows? Okay. But they're not done yet. They have 2 spots left, and I believe they're going to use those spots.
And in your mind, where do the Gators need to look to the portal to what position should they try to fill those spots with?
Well, right now they're looking at a linebacker from Tennessee. I don't think that's actually going to work out. I think he'll probably opt for a school where he can enroll now and doesn't have to wait until May. If they were to wait till May, maybe there's a chance. But, certainly an inside linebacker or an offensive lineman maybe, and clearly a wide receiver / running back / slot guy is a premium position right now. So there's a couple guys I'm keeping an eye on, and I want to see kind of, how things unfold here over the next couple of weeks.
At Chris Doring Mortgage, they do mortgage lending right, helping home buyers throughout Gainesville and North Central Florida. Call Chris Doring Mortgage today, 352-244-0840. We're speaking with Jason Higdon on the Titanmore Hotline. You can follow him at Twitter at Jason_Higdon. And you can also check out all his great work on firstand10florida.com. We got a text here on the Titanmore text line. It comes from John. John wants to know, is Bowman and Eric Gilbert eligible to play this year?
Bowman will be for sure. There's still maybe a little bit of uncertainty with Gilbert. I know he has some work to do in the classroom. I don't know if he's technically enrolled or taking classes currently. I believe both of them will be ready to play. Bowman for sure. So I know the goal was not to get a transfer kid that had to sit a year. That wasn't a road they wanted to go down again like they did with Brenton Cox, where he had to come in and sit a year. So I can only assume that the goal is taking players that are eligible to play in 2021. Now, if something happens or we see a hiccup and maybe that doesn't happen, I'm not really sure. But the goal is take guys that can come in and help right away.
What are your thoughts? You talk to tons of college coaches, especially some of the Gator coaches. Do they like the early signing period nowadays?
I think the early signing period has just replaced basically today. I was talking to some people down at Florida this morning, and we were kind of laughing that, it's the first time in 10, 12 years where you weren't up till 3 a.m. on National Signing Day Eve, scrambling around, talking to kids till 3 in the morning, aunts, uncles, dads, grandmas, handlers, trainers, high school coaches, and you weren't up at 4 a.m. today doing the exact same thing. So it was kind of an eerie feeling. So I think really all we've done is substituted today for the early signing period. I mean, National Signing Day in my mind right now is the early signing day. Of course, we're going to see some guys that want to, take it to the end. And you know what? Sometimes you roll the dice like that and you think you're going to go to a school that's going to wait for you. And unfortunately, what some of these high school kids and parents don't realize is recruiting is a big business, just like college football. So, all these kids coming out of high school think they're going to be, the next Joe Montana or Ronnie Lott or whoever. And the fact is, they have tons of players at every single position that they grade out as 1+ guys. So the day you get an offer, your offer is good. As each day passes and you get closer and closer to National Signing Day, that offer actually loses a little bit of its weight. And people don't really understand that, and they don't believe it, but Florida passes on high 4-star players all the time, not because they're not good players, but because they've replaced them with another player that they believe is an impactful type player. So, kids need to be careful with this early signing period. Anybody who's committed publicly or verbally, heading into the early signing period that chooses not to sign, that wants to just take it to today, the first Wednesday in every February, is really gambling with their future. And sometimes it pans out and sometimes it doesn't.
That's interesting. Dan has a question here on Facebook Live, brought to you by Mellon Law, the only official law firm partner of the Florida Gators. What's going to happen with the scholarships going down next year to the normal 85 with the extra COVID year kids? They have to get back to 85 next year, correct?
I believe so, and I trying to figure out what the NCAA is going to do is trying to find a needle in the haystack. I don't even try to figure it out, quite honestly, Shane. I wait until the NCAA reaches out to Florida, and then I'll find out from them what exactly is going to happen. They were still trying to figure out what the number was going to be for the actual COVID seniors that were wanting to return, and from the way I understood it, they still hadn't come up with a hard line number. And it sounded like it was going to be some sort of floating number. For example, if, Florida has 85 seniors, if Florida has 85 players and they're right sitting at the 85 number, but, 10 guys want to come back that are COVID seniors, okay, they're going to have 95 on the roster. But, Georgia, they might have, 15 COVID seniors that come back. So they're going to be they'll have 5 more guys higher than what Florida has on the roster. So I don't really know how that's going to work out. It seems like a nightmare to me, quite honestly. But, whenever there's a resolution, I'll just call someone at Florida and figure it out.
Yeah, it is going to be a nightmare. Brandon has a Facebook Live brought to you by Mellon Law. He says, is Kyer Elam the only starter coming back in the secondary? And do you think any of these young kids coming in can step in and play right away?
That's a good question. Things change. We have 2 new defensive backs coaches now at Florida. So, I think everybody's kind of starting with a clean slate, so to speak, as far as who can do what and who brings what, as far as, in the new coach's eyes. So, Elam certainly is going to be a starter. I think, we have to be careful when we try to lay unrealistic expectations on incoming freshmen, i.e. Jason Marshall. He's the guy that I've been told looks physically impressive enough, like he's already got a year under his belt with Nick Savage. So I know people think that Marshall's going to walk in and start. I certainly think he's going to walk in and play. I mean, if you're that good, you're going to play. We see guys like Derek Stingley and Elam. Those guys get on the field, and I think Marshall is one of those kind of guys. I think Jaden Hill probably right now, if they were playing a game tomorrow, would be starting at the opposite corner spot of Elam. The secondary, the safeties are going to be wide open. We have to see guys like, Torrance and Mordecai McDaniel and Jahari Rogers, Avery Helm. They've got a lot of good, really young talent. I'm excited about seeing how it shakes out. So, I would bet on Elam and Hill would be the starters at corner. Then we'll kind of go from there and see what happens with some of those other guys. But I don't think they've had a rotation of the amount of guys they've had in 2021. They haven't had that in the last couple of years. I mean, they have 16, 17 defensive backs right now on the roster. So there's going to be a lot of moving parts moving forward. And plus, we have 2 new defensive coaches, safeties and corners. So, that's going to play a part as well, just like it plays a part in, the big board at our website has actually changed. So when new coaches come in, there's still some crossover. They like some of the guys that they were recruiting, the previous guys were recruiting, but we're seeing a whole slew of just new guys that are popping up all over the place that the new coaches like that the other coaches weren't really recruiting. So a lot of things are changing right now.
Yeah. We've got another question here, and it comes from Tommy on Facebook Live, brought to you by Mellon Law. He wants to know, what's up with the JUCO kid? I want to say, is it DeJuan Black?
Yes.
Is he
enrolled? DeJuan Black no, he's not. DeJuan Black to me is turning into a little bit of what I like to call the Reggie Nelson saga, where every single year he was the guy that was pumped up and billed as, the next great freak that was going to come and roam around the defensive side of the ball for the Gators. And, every enrollment date would come and go, and we wouldn't see Reggie Nelson in a Gator uniform. And some of that seems to be happening with DeJuan Black. I believe now he's at the point where he just didn't get the grade that he needed to in one class. So he's now currently taking one class that, assuming all goes well with the one class and he gets the grade that he's supposed to get, he should be here in May with everyone else.
Gotcha. The quarterback position, before we let you go, most important position in all of sports. New coach there with Garrett McGee. He's coached a lot of college football. And I know a lot of Gator fans were upset that Dan just kind of hired him. He'd been a advisor or what have you, one of those analysts the last year or so. What do you know about Garrett McGee, and should the Gator Nation be okay with him being the quarterback coach?
First of all, Shane, that was spoken like a true quarterback. So I'm glad you pumped up the quarterback position. I actually feel the exact same way as you. It is the single most important position on the field, bar none. That's all there is to it. So I love McGee. He's a straight shooter. I've already talked to numerous high school recruits, Wegman and Ty Simpson and Nick Evers and Sam Horn. And Evers and Horn, by the way, these are guys that Florida fans haven't heard of before that McGee came in and identified right away, okay? I talked to Sam Horn last night. He's at Collins Hill, kind of where I'm at in Georgia, in Swanee, Georgia. And Nick is out in Flower Mound, Texas. These guys, when you turn the film on, they just jump off at you. I mean, they jump off at you. These guys are legit guys. So, Dan had a plan. Everyone knew that Brian Johnson wasn't going to be at Florida long. I was very hopeful that we were going to get one more year out of him because I love the guy. I think he's fantastic from coaching to recruiting to everything he does and the way he carries himself. So he will surely be missed. But again, different doesn't necessarily mean bad. And Dan had a plan, and he brought McGee in. He was here. He studied the offense. He got to know the players. He saw how Dan operated the whole 9 yards. So in my mind, this was something that Dan believed was going to happen. He had a plan, and he was prepared for it, and he executed, and it went down very quickly when it was announced that Brian was leaving. So I'm excited about Coach McGee. I think he's going to be a great recruiter. And, I think he'll fit right in and we'll just kind of keep rocking and rolling. So I would suspect that Emory Jones will be named the starter whenever they get around to it. And I think it'll be hard for him to fend off a guy like Anthony Richardson just because the amount of skill level that he has. And I think he's still kind of, scratching the surface of what he brings to the table. So I think it's very exciting. Some of this stuff we'll just kind of have to wait and see how it all plays out. But I like all the hires, and I think they're going to do a fantastic job. And I'm specifically excited about McGee and some of the feedback that I'm receiving from high school kids that weren't necessarily even really looking at Florida. And now all of a sudden they're talking to this guy, and they're pretty fired up about what he's saying and what he thinks. Those recruits are fired up about what McGee brings to the table is what they're saying. So, that's what we have to go on right now, and time will tell.
Good stuff. You knew Brian Johnson very well. Were you surprised that he went to the NFL instead of maybe waiting for a head job in college, which he can always come back? But is it one of those points where he loves coaching ball and now he doesn't really have to worry about recruiting?
I don't think recruiting was really a deciding factor for him. I think the amount of money and clearly the $150,000 raise was, something that was hard to turn down. And I don't think people really understand what the NFL pays just for position coaches. So when you got a guy that's, making $750,000 to be an offensive coordinator at a, Power 5 program and a big Power 5 program like Florida, and then he goes to be a position coach in the NFL and he actually gets a $150,000 raise, that's something that you can't ignore that. So, I think that, when you look at the head coaching vacancies in the NFL every single year, and we just saw it this past year, there's 6 or 7 job openings in the NFL, and everybody that gets interviewed 95% of the time basically is somebody that's already working in the NFL. So I think his path actually becomes a little bit easier being at an NFL team to try to eventually get to where he wants to be, which is a head coach. So I was a little bit surprised. I thought we would have him for one more year, but certainly he was super excited about it. And we spoke last week before he was heading up to Philly. And the guys just, I think it was an opportunity, like he said, that they made it very difficult for him to say no. And they did a great job recruiting him and getting him in Philly.
Couple last Facebook Live questions here for you. Let you go, Jason. Comes from Tommy, from Brandon, brought to you by Melvin Law. Is Gene DeLance coming back for a 6th year?
I expect that to happen, yes. I believe that DeLance and Reese will both come back. I mean, nothing's written in stone, but, right now I expect both those guys to come back. And really, when people look at players and they want to know, hey, is this guy coming back? I guess my question would be to them, where's he going to go?
Right.
No knock on the player, but did he have a good enough season to, get drafted? Did he have a good enough season to maybe get invited to a free agent camp? And I can't say definitively no for Delance and Reese, but I don't think either one would get drafted, and I don't believe either one would probably get invited to a free agent camp. So if you're those guys, what options do you have? You got to suck it up, come back, get a full year with Savage, and try to do it all over again to increase your draft stock.
Yep. Last one, Dan from Texas wants to know, any buzz from the recruits about Florida's new football facility?
No, and I don't think we're going to have any of that until these kids can actually, get in their car and drive to Gainesville and actually see some of the stuff that's going on. So,
right.
That's unfortunate, obviously, but that's something that every school is dealing with. Florida's not the only school that's, got new facility stuff coming, and no kid has, been able to go and see some of that stuff, except for a few kids here and there that take visits on their own. So, hopefully things will open up and kids can actually, get back to a normal recruiting life, and they can come and see some of the things and some of the plans that Florida has in store moving forward.
Yeah. Speaking of that, last thing, and we're going to let you go. How difficult has it been for coaches where kids can't actually come on recruiting visits? Everything's have to be done via Zoom or what have you. Has that been really hard for these coaches?
Some coaches it has. I mean, I think, it's just like anything, Shane. Some of these guys are great in person. They know how to adapt no matter what kind of family they're talking to, no matter whose living room couch they're sitting on. They are considered closers. And when you get somebody in the living room with, such and such coach, they close out the deal. Okay. Some guys are fantastic on the phone or during FaceTime or whatever. So I think for some of the guys, it hasn't been a big deal. And I think for other guys that need to have that, in-person one-on-one facial contact, I think it has been very difficult. So, but again, it's something that every staff is dealing with. And it's just like anything else. Some staffs are better at, they're more equipped to deal with recruiting in this fashion versus others. So for Florida, I think it's important that things open up and they can actually get the one-on-one contact and get guys in offices, and they can take trips and go sit in people's living rooms. So, again, it's a tough time, and, hopefully everyone's staying safe, and hopefully as each day passes with the vaccine, things will at least start to get back to a sense of normalcy that we saw prior to everything shutting down.
Let everybody know how they can check out your website.
firstand10florida.com, man. We're excited about some of the things that we're doing. We have great members. In fact, I just found out yesterday that, Nick Evers out of Flower Mound, Texas, the offensive coordinator at that high school's brother-in-law is a member on our site. I mean, it's such a small world, and the members of First and 10 Florida, they reach far and wide. So you never know who you're going to be talking to. And like, we always say, pull up a chair and let's talk some recruiting.
Sounds good, my man. Appreciate the time, Jason. Be safe, and we'll talk to you soon, bud.
As always, thanks for having me, Shane.
Yep, that's Jason Higdon. You can follow him on Twitter at Jason_Higdon. We're going to take our final time out of the program today. You're watching and listening to Pod Up with Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. We'll be right back.
Hey, Gators, this is Coach Steve Spurrier. Pod Up with Matthews in the Morning. We'll be right back after this commercial break.
We want to take this moment to thank all our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills. Our Gridiron sponsors are Crime Prevention Security Systems, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility. Meldon Law, where you matter most. Peachland Dental, Gator Nation's first choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte. Comfort Temp, comfort is our business, peace of mind is our promise. G-Tech Sport, keep your athletes in the game with G-Tech Sport. Celebration Point Town Center, Center State Bank, Chris Doring Mortgage. Some of our touchdown sponsors are Campus USA Credit Union, Adams Rib Company, Darlene Weeby Realtor Caldwell Banker MM Parish, Gator Dominoes, Celebrate Primary Care, Gator Bait Media, Davis Gainesville Chevrolet, Miapa Latin Cafe, Rat Spot, Aikido America, Gators Dockside, Style Cuts, Ironwood Golf Course, TB Financial, Meadowbrook Golf Course, Dar Shakow Insurance. If you are interested in promoting your business on the show, visit potupwithshane.com and click the advertise button. Again, thank you to all our great sponsors that support the show. If you like what we are doing here, make sure you follow us and support the businesses that support us.
Welcome back to the Crime Prevention Security System Studios at Comfort Temp. Comfort is our business. Peace of mind is our promise. Get a free annual maintenance plan with every residential duct cleaning purchase, $199 value. The service department's open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. In 1876, Albert Spalding invests $800 to start the sporting goods company manufacturing the first baseball, basketball, tennis ball, and golf ball and football. That's brought to you by Comfort Temp. Don't forget, the Chomp Harder winner is... Let me find it. If I can find it, Garrett Edmond. And tomorrow's show, don't forget, we got Mary Wise and the head ball coach Steve Spurrier. Be safe out there, folks. Take care. Today's show's a wrap, brought to you by Wrap Spot. See you tomorrow.